All right, man. I think we are live, and I'm gonna be honest. I'm really excited about this conversation. It's been a while where I've wanted to speak with HTC a little bit more. But to get things started, Yukai Chow, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you reaching out in the first place. You guys have been very communicative lately. But it comes from a place of earnest, which is why I was really cool with this talk. You guys really came with not like wanting to push anything. I didn't get the vibe that there was anything to really plug. It was refreshing. You just seemed to want to talk, which I appreciated because like the people who follow this channel and know me even personally, like HTC, the Vive was what I originally started with in an empty apartment with no furniture sitting on the floor, full room scale. Vividly remembering just sitting down on the ground, my wife and I switching out headsets, just in that like Vive home. It was weird. It was unique, and it really set the stage for my love for VR. And HTC was a big part of it, which is why when I heard we could get you on the show, immediate opportunity to ask you the grand questions, and I can start with a really big one. VR and right now on social media, you see it. There's a lot of like back and forth of good and bad. PCVR is dead, blah, blah, blah. But I'm always interested in HTC's vision. Like, what are you guys seeing right now? What's making you excited to be in virtual reality? What's getting you guys excited for the future?
So, as you know, HTC has been one of the earliest pioneers in VR, right? We really try to innovate heavily in this space when at the time it was a bit more just cardboard and
Mm-hmm.
putting your phone into the cardboard headsets. And HTC invested heavily into, hey, we see this as a part of the future. We want to put a lot of money in making it great. And of course, that industry has boomed more and more. More players came in, which we think is a good thing for the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, it made it a little bit difficult for us to do some things where we have to figure out what is the best way for us to create compelling products in the market that we can serve the best. And I think the future of VR, I think, is just going to get stronger and stronger. Now, PCVR, I think, is about a bigger experience, more immersive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And generally speaking, no matter how far in the future you look, PCVR will probably be 7 times better in terms of graphics than all-in-ones. And it's just because you have a big computer to process it. You don't have to worry about battery and all that stuff. So I think both will improve, but PCVR will generally be better. And so there is a place for that, especially when you think about the value proposition of VR is to be immersive, right?
Mm-hmm.
The more
Yes.
real, the higher the graphics, the more immersion you feel, the reason why you'll fall in love with VR. So, and especially when you look at some hardcore gaming, and if you look at some company training usages, those require a lot more precision.
Yes.
Definitely, there's a casual market out there. People who just want to figure out what's VR. Let me see if I can use it. I want to maximize convenience, and that's definitely a big market. But it's just like the gaming industry in general, right? There's the mobile games, and then there's the hardcore, consoles and also high graphics games. That's still around. Like mobile didn't really remove all of that.
Yeah, and I know let's start with the PCVR side, not in the sense of the state of it or anything, but one thing that, like when I first got into VR, VR was expensive. Like when I first got into it, I had to buy the PC. I did not have the PC for it. I didn't have any of the Vive components, so right off the bat, I'm pretty far in the hole monetarily to experience this next level of gaming that I wanted.
Mhm.
And at the time, the money wasn't there either for me, so it was something that I had to make happen. Um, but sorry, I'm checking out. There we go. We're good.
Yeah.
Um,
What made you take that leap of faith? To actually just secure that funding to try technology that you haven't experienced before.
Here, Yukai, I might want to cut us off real quick. We might
All
want.
right.
I might want to. I just noticed it. Like am I frozen here? The whole getting into VR thing, and I do want to transition back to that question I had for you on PCVR front, but it's like we're always, unfortunately, it's escalating quicker and quicker for me these days. But I always want that next something. You start with the Game Boy. This is fun. Then I want my Game Boy Advance. Then I want my DS, my Switch. I always want something more because it's a very short life, right? Like
Mhm.
yes, 80, 100 years. It's a very long time, and you can accomplish so much in that. But it's a speck of time in the grand scheme of things. And I want to squeeze everything I can into what I got. So virtual reality gaming, this is my opportunity to experience something else in life right now at the forefront of it. That's where I want to be. Um, but getting into that is spending all that money. I didn't have much left over, and Vive ports was very influential in how I played a lot of games at the beginning. Viveport was awesome. Spending a little bit of money a month to have a very large catalog of games, and you had a lot of great games on there too. It wasn't just a bunch of random stuff. It was good stuff. So now I look at PCVR and it's like, Oculus, it was their last Oculus Studio game they funded for Lone Echo 2. And I'm curious if HTC sees a future where maybe they are the bank per se, funding larger PCVR titles. Is HTC talking about doing that for any developers or anything?
Oh, yeah, we actually already do that. We invest in quite a few companies. Actually, we're a major investor in VR chat. So I'm not sure if a lot of people know that. We
I
are
did
the
not.
major investor. Yeah. So we invest in a lot of companies that do innovation in general, inside, outside of VR. But we invest in studios, content creators, and all that stuff. So we are there to invest in the ecosystem because if the VR industry is doing well, then we're thriving, we're doing well.
Why VR chat out of all the social platforms? What drew HTC to them? Because I'd like to hear your thoughts on VR chat because that's a very, very big platform and could be huge. And I'm sure HTC has to see something to get so involved.
Yeah. So that wasn't my decision, but VR chat, I think, back then it was not so big. I think we were the first investor into it or first major one. So back then it was more about the promise and how exciting it could be. And, just like most investments, a lot of them don't necessarily pan out, but VR chat, amazing. Like, we've known people who got married because of VR chat. It's probably the platform that has the most concurrent users. Compared to any other VR platform or game. So yeah, I think it's been great, and I think overall it's a by nature a viral product, right? It
Yes.
it makes people want to grab others into VR. Hey, get your headset so you can go in VR. We can hang out in VR chat. So it's a social product. It's evergreen, and this is actually very interesting because, and back to the value of Viveport, because it's so expensive to create VR content, right?
Yes.
2D games easy, 3D games, and you can't just make like low resolution because you're in everything's blown up to be building size. So it's very expensive, very difficult to make VR content. And as a result, most VR games out there is like 5 to 40 hours of experience, right? You don't usually see those games that you can play for 500 hours, 2,000 hours, which
Yes.
some console games do have and computer and PC games have. But when you look at something like VR chat, the players, they're the content, right? They're the experience, and so everyone's there to entertain each other, have fun, and enjoy each other. So I think that actually is kind of an evergreen type of environment for VR, and because VR experiences are short, if you spend like 40 to 60 bucks on one game and you play it for 5 hours and complete it, that usually gives a not that great of a feeling.
No,
But the
not at
thing with
all.
Viveport is that you get to try something for an hour or two. It's like, yeah, it's kind of fun, but let me try something else. It's like, wow, this is the game I want to really play. But then after 30 hours, it ends. It's like, all right, let me find the next one. So I think you can try a lot of things without a commitment, and you get to, even if you like it, that hey, if it's on a 10 to 40 hour experience, I'm not paying more to try the next game in the same month.
No, and it's helping. I've got to imagine it's helping developers get a little more exposure. Like Denny from Cloudhead Games, I really liked his comment about he likes curated storefronts to a degree where we can't these diamonds in the rough or diamonds that are out there as games. You have to in VR right now, in his opinion, and I would tend to agree, push them to the forefront, push them to your face. Otherwise, this visibility is so hard for anyone to know what to play. There's a lot of risk in a virtual reality game because a lot of people are trying to figure out what works, what doesn't, what's fun, what's not, what's immersive. And if you have to take a risk on every single game, you're going to gravitate really just to the same core ones that everybody recommends. Why does everyone bring up Super Hot? Why does everyone bring up Beat Saber? All these games, because we know that the experience is pretty standard from person to person in these. They're going to have a good time, but you pushing games to people's eyeballs, it is going to be good for VR because you want that first experience of someone to be good.
Mhm.
And at least with Viveport, if it's not good, their first experience of the game, there's no risk. They just exit out, on to the next. I thought that was really ingenious when I played, when I used Viveport, because I did find a bunch of crap. I'm not gonna lie, that was just, I chose the wrong stuff. But then I found a lot of good things, like what was it, man? The Green Room or something like that. What was that? Some horror game that I found on Viveport that I absolutely fell in love, and that was like the first game that really sunk a lot of time into. Um, Going
For
back
me, it's
to
Ninja Legends.
Ninja
That's a game
Legends.
that grabbed me. I like, I like sword fighting VR games, not as much as, or uh, over, gunfight VR games. And so I think, that's what really got me into Viveport. But I think one of the big things about the ecosystem is, like, if you saw that a lot of the big gaming companies, the triple game companies, they said, oh, they don't want to do VR because it's too risky, right? It's
Hmm.
expensive, it's unproven, it's risky, it's quote unquote a niche market because it's limited to how many people have VR headsets, which of course is expanding by the day. So the people that actually make a lot of VR content, those are people with passion, right?
Yes.
Indie companies, like, hey, we just imagine how amazing gaming could be when it's immersive, when we're in VR. And so the indie companies, they take the risk, they make the games, and so Viport gives them the chance to have more exposures. Hey, if they're doing well, we want them to be discovered, and so they'll inspire other companies to actually make VR games also. And I think, again, Viport has been doing that. So that's why you see more and more companies trying. And so I think the ecosystem overall is getting healthier because of that.
When you are like, I'm sure there's a process for which games you're marketing towards and pushing become part of Viveport, and maybe that gives you a little insight to see what people are playing more of and giving more reviews to. From someone who maybe has a lot more knowledge of, since you have this wide range of games on Viveport, what are you seeing of what people are finding works for VR, what isn't working? Like, what are people gravitating towards? Like, I know a lot of people like shooters, so then hearing you liking swords, like, I like to hear that. It's a little something, it's different. But what kind of games and mechanics maybe are you seeing people gravitate towards more?
I think you could tell from the big genres, right? Horror is a huge genre just because it's scarier when it's all around you, right?
Yes.
And the zombie or monster is creeping up next to you and you don't even notice until it's too close. So I think that creates the most amount of sensation in the experience. And then shooters are fun because people always imagine themselves being some badass, hero going around and fighting bad guys. So it's almost like that, playing Pokemon on your Game Boy into Pokemon Go. Before, when you watch the anime, you watch the trainer, and then when you play Pokemon, or when you play Pokemon on your Game Boy, you control the trainer, and then when it's Pokemon Go, it's more augmented reality stuff, you become the trainer. I think this is the same thing. You're not controlling a character, shoot around, you are the character, and I think that gets people to be pretty excited. We also see that things that involve a lot of movement and rhythm,
Mm,
musical games, right? Things that if your body moves, it makes you happy, or exercising, right? Those are also genres that people really enjoy. So more sensation, more movement, more rhythm. Those, I think, are places where VR adds a lot of value at. Also, immersive puzzle games, kind of like escape rooms. Um, the Vive Portal ARG we're doing is like almost like a escape room, but just on the internet kind of thing. So that people do like to look for clues, try to solve puzzles, and also some of the socializing. So we're seeing those trends, but of course, I don't want to say this and limit companies to
yes.
only do these things that are proven and let's just change it to from a cowboy to space fighters, right? I do, we always keep discovering new genres that people are like, wow, that's so amazing. We never thought this was possible. Like if you look at Super Hot, right? That is not a clear genre from before. Like it's
No, not at
actually, it's a
all.
very unique type of game. You wouldn't say it's a shooter. It's almost like it's like a puzzle game and a shooter and all these things combined. And so we really encourage companies to do that. They took the risk to innovate and they were rewarded for that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And let's harp back because you brought it up. Let's get into this ARG hunt because this will go into. I have some questions on marketing. I think you guys lately, especially like since the launch of the last two headsets, the Focus 3 and the Vive Pro 2, marketing's on point. Like I'm very curious. This ARG thing, when you guys reached out for the first time, um, I didn't really get into it right away, but the more I spend on other people's discords and people who are really getting into it, it transitions very well to your comment about the sensation of VR, making people like happy and naturally moving. This ARG hunts seems to have done the same thing to a lot of people. Where did this idea come from? Because it came out of absolutely nowhere. Absolutely nowhere.
All right, it's actually a pretty interesting. So first of all, I want to say that I have a whole initiative to have HTC be a bit more personal, sociable, fun, right? I think HTC has always been strong on innovation. The triangle for Vive. I don't know if you are aware, but it actually the three legs have three different words. It's humanity, technology, imagination, and so HTC has always been focusing on innovation, helping humanity. But I think because it's a company that's been around for decades as a hardware maker, I feel like it could be a bit more social, more close to its customers. And so if you notice the Twitter account, for instance, at the beginning of this year, 2021, became a bit more sociable, right? Just start
Very
chatting,
much.
making funny memes, right? Playing chess moves with the Facebook Twitter account. And so we're just doing a bit more fun stuff to engage people, to be more sociable. And so that's that. And we started to recognize more of the influencers in the community because, we make the technology, but the influencers are really the people who really bring up the space and get everyone interested and understand the value of things. Our products offerings sometimes very complicated, and we may or may not do a great job explaining them. But a lot of the content creators, they just said, let me break down why this is good and what it can improve, right? Let me talk about the great things. So I think those are amazing. So then comes to this ARG. So it all started off with actually so I wrote a book personally on gamification, and it's one of the leading books on the topic. And so
What's the book's
there's
name
actually
for those
it's
who
called
want to?
Actionable Gamification: Beyond Points Badge Leaderboard. If you go on Amazon and you search for the gamification, it should be the first result by Yukai Chao. Yeah, and so one of the readers of the book was the owner of the Al Habtoor family, which happens to be, I think, the third richest family in Dubai and 40th in the world. And they just say, hey, love the gamification. We like to do some gamification stuff. And I just realized I don't want to spoil a lot of things because people are still playing the ARG too. So I already said a bit too much on some of that. But anyway, I'll keep it vague. So anyway, I talked to this person, and this person has runs a lot of hotels, right? And there's one that's just amazing, very futuristic, looks like a spaceship, and I see it, I want to be there. And then I said, hey, since I'm working with HTC Vive, it'll be really cool if you can transition your hotel room into a VR themed Vive hotel. So it has Vive everywhere. It has the VR set built into it to the point where the base stations can be built into the wall, like renovated to that
That's
way.
nice.
And one of the references, there's an Alienware hotel room also in Panama, and it just converted into what they call the gamer's heaven, like everything's gaming focused. So I said that would be cool. So they love the deal, so we struck out a deal to say, hey, let's turn that hotel room into a Vive VR hotel room. And then we said, hey, of course you're gonna sell these rooms on Booking.com, all that stuff. But can you give some of these the package to some of the VR community? And so they said, oh sure, why not? So it ended up being a really, really cool package. Again, every HTC executive who hear about the package that we're giving out to the community, they said, oh, can I do it? Can I go? And I don't want to spoil it because that's part of the ARG. So we're like, all right, we're gonna give this out, right? And we're like, oh well, if we just give it out and just make it like a, hey, whoever likes our tweet,
Sure.
we'll pick a random person. We feel like that's really, really boring. So it's like, hey, let's make it fun. Let's make an ARG with puzzle to solve, with challenges that one leads to another. And we also wanted the community to really explore what that reward. We feel like the prize is so amazing that just finding out is a fun journey, and it's going to become an awesome reveal. So we designed this ARG, and then we thought, well, the influencers would be great to share with their audience about it, and we wanted to reward the influencers too. So then we created a multi-round series of the influencers who help share this. They'll get a good chance to get the prize and do this great trip, and of course that will be a amazing experience to also record and have
Sure.
exclusive footage to their audience. And of course, in the community members, we're gonna have them do this ARG and just use a lot of creativity. The whole theme of this Jordan Snow saving the future because it's controlled by mind controlling overseers is that in the future there's no more creativity. Like the mind controlling overseers have removed all creativity. And so that's why they need to come to the past and find free thinkers. So as long as people can prove they're creative and do creative things, one being solving these puzzles that the overseers of our time can't really understand, and then also doing some UGC, some interesting memes, then they'll be able to go to this what we call Vive portal, which is this amazing location, and then enjoy the package. So that's kind of the full story of how it came about, and some of the details about why certain decisions were done that way.
It's been fun to watch. It's kind of comical in a way, because like the first one I watched, I think the first video I watched on this was Thea's one. I think she was one of the first that kind of put something out. Then I started getting into some Discords and watching people play, and then I realized what you were doing. And I think you mentioned it in an email too, but it's comical in a way how hard you guys are trying to give away something awesome that most people would probably put most of the effort to go get, but instead you guys are doing all the effort to sell something that sells itself. It's a really funny scavenger hunt when you think of it that way.
Well, it's like this for most games, right? It's like usually you think, oh, I'm really busy, or if you like a whole TV show like Game of Thrones, you're like, oh yeah, it looks kind of fun, but I'm really busy. It's complicated. I don't want to sink my time into it, right? Until you touch it, and the moment you touch it, you're like, wow, this is so cool. This is so fun. I'm so glad I did it, right? And can't stop. So we've had influencers who, when I first sent it out, they're telling me that, oh, I'm too busy. I don't want to do all this work for a chance at something. And then they're like, okay, let me actually look. And then they said, wow, this is amazing. And they said, I spent all day just trying to solve this with my community, and my whole community was excited about it. And then this person tweeting me, says, I solved it. He literally says, I'm dancing in joy right now. And then what was the best part for me personally was he said, now that I found the answer, I feel lost. Like the journey is over. Yeah, and I'm like, yes, that's a win-win. It's like when you watch the last episode of your favorite series, it's like, oh, like I don't get to play anymore.
Yeah.
And but getting people to jump in has been so hard. That's why we're like trying to email again. Hey, you want to participate? There's not enough people doing it. So if you do it, you have an actual really high chance. I'm trying to say it without saying like, oh, it's like we're like, please do it. I'm trying not to be in that angle. But literally, it's like, hey, we are working so hard to give this prize away, and it's something else. And we see people, once they touch it, they love it. The community they're leading loves it. It's just that people have to actually read my really long emails that explains the details, which is annoying. I agree.
I get it. It's kind of like between the email sometimes and indie developers trying to convince people to play their demos. I could imagine the struggle is real of just trying to get people to try something different. But you get like the good and bad out of it. So like with this ARG hunt, I've seen nothing but like a lot of fun and positivity. For example, though, on like your last headset launches, like the Vive Focus 3 and Vive Pro 2, you get like this wide mix of people that are so pro and enthusiastically on board and show their excitement, whether it's YouTube videos, tweets, whatever. And then you get this other crowd who doesn't buy it, and you get this negative social reaction internally at HTC. And I don't get the opportunity to talk like this or to people in your position. What's that like to the culture of HTC when you see the dichotomy of great social media reaction and negative? How do you guys internalize that? Are there changes made, or how do you view it?
Yeah, and one common misconception we keep getting out there is that, HTC is abandoning the consumer segment, like that we don't care about consumers. And then they get confused, like, why is there social media like consumer focused? Why is this? And to make things clear, HTC has not ever abandoned the consumer sector. We just launched some products that are focused on high-end gamers, which is consumer, but also businesses. And that's generally because the landscape is that way right now. We have a unnamed competitor who is basically losing a lot of money to acquire their customers, right? And I think it's good for the ecosystem and they make money in other different ways. But HTC is a traditional hardware maker, right? So we
Yep.
can't lose money on every hardware we sell. We have to at least break even on the hardware. So when people see that and they say, "Oh, look, you're ripping us off. You're like so greedy." It's like, well, yeah, like that's the other companies, sometimes the cost they're charging is not even covering the material costs in the world economy. So yeah, so that's something that is hard for us to deal with and debate about, talk about. I think there's a misunderstanding. Like, we can again keep trying to innovate, but for the time being, we've decided, all right, we're gonna target the very serious VR users, right? Again, the
Hmm.
people who want to upgrade to high-end PCVR and businesses. But we are continuously doing a lot of research, innovating, and can't share about details about
Sure.
how to launch new products, new exciting things in the consumer space. And
I
so I
think
think that's one of the biggest misunderstanding.
I think you knew, like, like when I asked people what maybe they want me to talk about here, I think you knew the common question is always consumer VR Quest competitor, uh, the name them. Um, I when I hear you say something like this, it makes more sense. A parallel to like my industry or my past industry when I worked with insurance, like you have some insurances company like State Farm. They lose money on every single policy they sell. Like they just absolutely lose money. They make it up in other areas. Um, then you got companies like Geico, absolutely make money on every dollar they sell. Not a lot, but they are making a profit. And because of that, the product you're getting with each of them is drastically different on what they can offer. They just both have different plans, and I will I'll be honest. Like, yeah, when the first round of kind of a new marketing for HTC, when the memes started coming and things like that, I really thought a consumer headset was coming that I could go to my local store and buy. And yeah, there was a little disappointment when it didn't happen. But I think it's the power of the brand you guys might have built, because regardless of what route you go, I think you know that everyone will go back if a headset came that they could purchase and use, because the products you've done and the goodwill that you started with VR being one of the first hardware manufacturers in there, it's lasted. It's lasted for me at least. Um, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask if something standalone, putting aside price, if something consumer standalone was in the works at HTC.
And I also say that I don't know why this is not obvious, and this is not an announcement from me at all. But I'll say that a lot of people don't really pay attention when the product is called Vive Focus 3 Business Edition. When something's called a business edition, it tends to imply something else, right? But again,
Sure.
that's not an announcement coming from me. It's just you look at the name business edition and you can kind of theorize what potential plans of the future.
I'm picking up what you're putting down. We don't have to get into that. Do you remember that like right around the Vive Focus 3, like right before you guys put out more than like the teaser clips and the teaser pictures? Do you remember that like Nike-esque like gray and green render that someone put out? Do you recall that?
Vaguely rings a bell.
Yeah, there was some super lightweight, like I think it was like a fitness edition, like gray and green render that someone said was the
Oh
next
yeah,
headset coming.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. It was called was it Vive Air or something?
Something like that. It really it resonated. A lot of people thought that was legit. What did HCC think when they saw that coming out? I've got to imagine you guys saw it and had to nix that real quick.
Yeah. So this is a piece of design created by Creative Labs, which at the time I was actually leading. I moved into more of the being close to the social media space and engaging the community. Um, well, I didn't lead it when they were designing that, but basically they create this design, and this is for any kind of innovation lab, right? You create 100 things and 99 don't make it
Yes.
because of we don't think it's compelling enough, or whatever reason, right? And that's the cost of innovation. And so after we make a bunch of things and only one get pushed out to market. Now this was unfortunate because this was actually designed many years prior, and it wasn't gonna make it to the finish line, so it was just kind of shut down. And then the design team's like, hey, let's just submit this to the design awards. right? Just to show that we've designed
Sure.
and many things in design awards. If people saw the context, a lot of them were our products that never launched because they're design awards, not product awards, right? Not launch product awards. Is a lot of them on concept. Um, and so, but the timing was most unfortunate when the
Yes.
awards published the results because we have been teasing new headset launch, new headset launch, new headset launch. And the community's been guessing what it could be, and then suddenly this organization says, "Hey, HTC won this award for their headset," and then that really threw all our
Hmm.
communication plan apart, and we had to deal with that, and we're just like, "Hey, like this is not what we're gonna do," but and we did get people saying, "Wow, this looks really cool. We do like it," and so uh, again, we might look at it more, but generally speaking, the reason why we tend to not reveal our products very until we're about to launch is there are many cases in the past where just even a leak of our products, and then within a month, you know, similar but cheaper and crappier products from China come out, and then we're like maybe 9 months away and they come out with a cheaper crappy product and people buy that and they think it's bad, and so when our legitimate product comes out, it just no one wants that anymore because they say, oh, it's just like that cheap product that I got. So there's a reason why Apple, a lot of hardware makers have that much secrecy. We don't
Hmm.
necessarily like it. We like to be open and share the hype, but that's just reality of the business too.
That makes sense. It's interesting comment that you bring up about the perception of if someone tries a headset that isn't or is a certain way, that they're going to take that experience and translate it to everything else. Um, from someone who was into VR super early, yourself, like HTC making hardware, I always hear people who tried like Gear VR and Google Cardboard and never came back to VR. Um, when you guys originally launched, the first bit of VR hardware out there, did you have to combat that mentality? Was there a re-education process where you really had to convince these users who tried just something on cardboard that no, this is completely different? How do you change perceptions of people who already had one bad experience in VR?
I mean, I think it's still the same today, right? People have to try it to believe it, right? And so it's the experience. So when people doubt, they try it on and like, wow, this is so different. I believe in this now. Like, I think a lot of people, VR enthusiasts, like family members, right? They
Hmm.
still say, oh, well, it's cute that you like this gaming headset thing, but it's not for me because I'm not a tech person, right? Until they put it on, it's like, wow, this is so amazing. So I think it's the same as the beginning. It's just and sometimes people can recognize that, hey, a phone in front of my face would be different than all like customized piece of technology around my head. So I think they acknowledge it probably would be better, but they just might not get out of the way to try it. But if they do, they end up believing
Sure.
again, and it's usually those people who are early adopters anyway for the cardboard
Yes.
folks. So they tend to they will say, hey, VR, it's a nice gimmick. You look around, you see the sky, but there's no actual engaging experience. And then as good content came out, that also changed.
The I'm assuming that a lot of like when you're pitching a Vive Pro 2 or a Vive Focus Business Edition, there's going to be a more enthusiast crowd who's going to be purchasing this, and there's not many ways for someone to spend like people like me who spend all that money to get into the original Vive. Like we're early adopters. We're anomalies. That's not normal. That's not healthy to a degree. Like we're spending a lot of money for try
Hey,
something the unknown, right? Um,
yep.
Putting COVID aside, because that's going to kind of be the out for most of this answer, does HTC have any thoughts on ways that when you're trying to actively acquire new VR users where it's not the enthusiast crowd, maybe that's going to be your bread and butter? What ways are you trying to convert these to potential new customers and users when they can't really try it at all?
Yeah, so I mean it when I said it that other players in the market that are basically subsidizing their headsets and hardware is not bad for the ecosystem.
Hmm.
So we have decided, and many companies have decided that fighting that face on and losing money in every product is a no go. But what we're doing is you know people who would never had been able to try VR is getting to this space because of that, right?
Hmm.
And so our positioning is that, hey, now that you try that, you like VR and you want to upgrade that experience, we want to be there. We want to be in that position so that you immediately recognize that our products would be an upgrade. It's more expensive. It's a premium product, premium experience. You went from, I don't know, like a Prius to a Tesla. It's a premium experience. It's more expensive, but when you're ready, you really love the experience. You want to take it to the next level. We want to be there ready for you. Yeah, and there's things we do very well. There's things we can improve, but overall, that's us, right? So we're not. So generally speaking, as of now, could change in the future. As of now, uh, we're not trying to convert people who don't care to casual users. We're either getting
Hmm.
casual users to serious VR users, or people who don't know they should use it to immediately become serious users.
That makes sense, especially with the products that you came out with kind of directly after. So, like the people that I speak with the most who are really into the immersion, who are putting everything into the ultimate VR experience. A lot of them are using the Vive Pro 2. A lot of them are doing the wireless adapter because they don't want any wires. A lot of them love the lip tracker, which I do as well. I wish it was compatible with VR chat, but they're just not going to get on that quite yet. But it's clear to me that you are investing in the Apex immersive experience. When you guys are putting out stuff like the lip trackers, what's the next endeavor when it comes to immersion that HTC would like to focus on the most? Is it something like better haptics, or that's probably one of the biggest ones? But what's down the pipe for the ultimate VR experience that HTC would like to be part of?
Yeah, so that's beyond what I'm able to share. So all I can say is we are working really, really hard to invest in all innovations of the future. So anything you read on the internet that's like, oh, that next big thing, that's big, that's hot, that's going to be the future. We probably have a lab that's looking at that research, seeing if it's viable and see what we can do with it. So that's all I can share, unfortunately, about our future offerings.
Can you share if you guys can force the hand of VR chat at all to allow modding of the Vive face tracker? I would love that.
Uh, I think there has been conversation. So, by the way, keep in mind a lot of the questions you're asking is a lot of other departments and units.
Yes.
So I don't know the inner details. So I'm just sharing when it's also not their official statement. But obviously we would love VR chat to be able to use the facial track, and I think a lot of people would want that. Again, VR chat is about social, right? And one of the things we're really into is we want to create what we call empathetic VR experiences.
I like
So
that.
it's not just it's not just the body limbs moving, but if you can bring empathy into VR, you can tell the look of admiration, let's say, in VR. I think that'll be amazing. One of the things that I envision is like, let's say you're watching a movie with, let's say, your significant other, girlfriend, fiance that lives afar, right?
Hmm.
And you're both watching a movie together in a virtual space, and then you can just turn your head and look at her, just look at the screen in amazement, and just be like, wow, my life is so good, right? It's because I always think the movie is just an excuse to enjoy each other, and so if that can actually happen in VR, I think that's amazing. So we do want a lot of these things to eventually get into the space, and I think VR chat is the perfect place to do it. But just like any other team, they're very busy with all sorts of
Yes.
projects, innovation. They have they have months and months of work lined up, and so it is difficult for anyone to just say, "Hey, stop your original plans and shove this in." But I think they most likely do see the community requesting this, like, hey, we'd love more facial tracking in VR chat. So I would imagine they would want to look into it more and prioritize a bit more than usual.
I like that vision a lot. It's pretty beautiful the way you put that on the. I never thought about the movies being a good way to enjoy each other, but that's a powerful message, especially the more I speak with like the rise of the VTuber right now. They're everywhere, and the first time I spoke with one, it was very off-putting. Very there's just not a lot of organic feeling to them. But as the tech has grown and we're adding more things like the lip tracker, like eye tracking, they are becoming so expressive that I can enjoy their company to the same degree, if not more, because of the endless possibilities of the environment that we're in. than IRL. It's pretty powerful. Um, I do want to jump out of consumer talk because I know there's just like a ceiling on how far we can go there. But before we started talking unofficially here, Vive Focus Business Edition and the business uses, you guys are putting a tremendous effort into enterprise, and that's not an area that I think gets any visibility because
Yeah.
it's not fancy, it's not sparkly, it's not the talk of the town, but that's ultimately where people are going to be using it first because we have to work and it's only making work easier and better. Where are you finding the most use cases for it right now where people are really finding a lot of value?
Yeah, so I think a few big sectors we're seeing is education and training. Having a virtual classroom and you see your classmates, you can interact with classmates, you see content in 3 real life, right? But that's just taking the classroom and zooming out around you. But you could learn in immersive environments. So instead of reading a book about the plains of Africa and seeing what the cheetah is, you can actually be in the plains of Africa and seeing a cheetah run and maybe could even say above like cheetah, right? And so if you're learning a new language, suddenly that gets imprinted in your head like, oh, that is the word in English. So I think that immersive type of learning and training is going to be useful. A lot of training, especially in physical operations, operating machinery,
Yes.
medical devices, all those things where again, you can't just read a book and you shouldn't just watch a video, right? You actually have to be hands-on and try it out. But maybe we've seen cases where setting up the training environment is very expensive, especially in COVID, it's sometimes prohibitive, but it's sometimes just very expensive to do this
Yep.
training. And so having every employee be able to be in that virtual environment and even have these guidance. You don't even have a live coach at the time to say, like any game, right? Hey, spin this knob, like any onboarding tutorial, right? Try this, great job. Hey, now do this. Oh, you're doing it wrong. Like little feedback mechanics that will help that experience. That's very, very powerful. One really cool example is the firefighting teams.
Mhm.
They put on fake fires and they put on like the heat and you have to operate. And what's really cool is they use the PCVR, the Vive Pro. I think the Vive Pro I. And what they do is they have this pipe device and has this machine and they hide the computer in this fire distinguishing machine that they have to carry around,
Yeah,
you know.
that's
So
awesome.
it is PCVR, but it's like all built into their gear. And so but they said that because it's really expensive putting up a training fireplace, they have to burn things down, right?
Yes. Yep.
So they said every time a fire person goes through this training, they save $10,000.
Wow.
So in that sense, like paying the cost of the headset is pretty simple. Now there's also we've seen applications in training like football training, which is pretty interesting. Like the quarterback is training in VR about in different scenarios what he should do. He should run left or throw the ball here, throw the ball there. And the nice thing is that whenever like when one route ends, instead of having everyone say, hey, now gather up, let's set up again, blah blah blah, and they have to find the other side of the opponent, like it just resets, right? So they can
Yes.
maximize how many times the quarterback immersively experiences the thrill, the excitement, the tension, and make a judgment call. Like they can do a lot of that in 10 minutes as opposed to one time in 10 minutes, let's say.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
think it's very. I don't think you guys personally get enough credit for the business side of it. I think it's easy to like, from my point of view and from my echo chamber that I'm in. It's gaming, gaming, gaming. So anything outside of it is alien, is foreign, and not particularly entertaining to us a lot of times. But that's because the face value of gaming is immediately entertainment. The face value of what you guys are doing, it's world changing, and that sounds it sounds over the top. It sounds like a weird way to say it, but I look at like the younger generation. Time is valuable. There's a billion things going on. We're forcing people to go to college and pick what they want to do before ever really even getting to experience things. And to your point of these opportunities that are open up, I was looking at the Air Force is using virtual reality to train pilots, and I think there was some report that they're training in about like 33% faster time because where you would have to spend years and years of book learning and training, which to a young person is that's a big life choice. You're going to have to choose now to spend 2 to 3 years on something that you don't know if you will perform the way they want or if that's what you want to do. But now they can do all this training right away, skip the book learning, because there's no risk to putting you into an aircraft. There's no safety concerns. There's no cost. Well, let's put you into this simulator and you can start training hands-on right away. That's really powerful to some young person who maybe now can, instead of spending years learning through books before getting hands-on, can do it right away to figure out, is this valuable to me? Do I want to do this? Can I put myself into this? I don't think you guys get enough credit for stuff like that. That's really empowering the user for their entire life, really.
Yeah, and also application therapy, for instance, both physical and mental therapy, emotional therapy, PTSD treatment. All those stuff is also a place where VR is creating a lot of value. But what's very interesting is that if you think about most of the world-changing innovation that happens, technologies, they come from two places: the military and gaming. And there's a reason for that. It's because those are the two places that would innovate, make crazy stuff that's not proven, without thinking about it if it's going to be profitable in a sense. Because most businesses, they don't innovate as much. They, it's like something's proven, and then we're just going to try to make a business out of it, right? Whereas game is like, we're just passionate. We're just like some gamers, and we want to make the biggest thing ever, and it's just built on passion alone. And something that I always wonder that's really funny is, when you look at how games rarely free, like especially when think about back in the day, like console games, you buy these the CD or cassettes, right? And you put it into your Nintendo, whatnot. They really crash, because if a game crashes in the middle of it, especially games that can't save, that's a terrible experience, right? People get really upset, and it really happens, right? And there a lot of them don't even have new updates and version and patches. But if you look at, and they have like a lot of these games, have lighting, shadow, 3D elements they're processing, and you look at business applications. A lot of business applications, like, oh, it's a form, you type in these numbers in this text, so you click submit and it takes you to another page. Those tend to crash quite a bit. Like the spreadsheets kind of stuff. And it's like, wait, that should be way easier than a game, right? Why does that crash so much? And honestly, it's because of the passion of the makers. When people are making the games, they're like, I want to create a game that I love. I want to play. And all that stuff is acceptable. All the little issues, the quality of life stuff. But when you're doing a business application, a lot of times it's like, oh, I'm just doing my job, right? And I'm just meeting all the specs, check, it's done. I ship it. So games create innovation because of the passion. And of course, military has innovation because they don't need to care about profit, because they just need to have the best technology in the world to be competitive. So it starts off that way, and then like the internet and all those things, and eventually it's like, all right, let's go closer into the general non-gaming consumer space. So that's an interesting trend that I've been looking at.
Yeah, that makes complete sense to me. Especially, like, I think the best thing about games too, on what you can see, like why they don't want it to crash, is because they're not just making the game for us. Like, it's basically them. We're basically seeing like their ethos, their ego, everything personified into a game. Like, I look at, like, I was talking with Anton the other day, and like you look at H3VR. That's basically his brain on steroids, that now he just personified, and I'm playing like the insane fantasies and abnormalities in his brain. And why would I want to present myself in game form to crash? Like, that's my vision dying to somebody. And that can ruin an experience really quick. So I think that's a super great way that you put that. I know time's getting close here, I want to always pick your brain on not anything specific that HTC is doing, because you're always working on new stuff and there's stuff you can't share. But when it comes to the next 5-10 years of VR, especially where you see it now, what are some of the things you think we'll be doing or possible within that time frame?
Yeah, like I said, past and present questions easy to answer, future a bit hard, but
Yep.
I think I kind of stick back to that things about VR. I think empathetic VR is going to be more the future, more and more of people seeing each other's faces, like more about, hey, it's just like seeing you in real life.
Can you give on the empathetic vision, outside of like eye tracking and the acute body movements that really convey words, like many, is there any specific types of experiences or worlds or mechanics that you think are going to help drive that empathy building machine?
I don't I don't think I would able to share a lot of that, specifics about the mechanics or the technology. So I'm I'm already sharing a lot that makes some people feel like, hey, why are you sharing so much? So
Sure.
that's why I'm trying to be authentic and genuine and just sharing what I have. But I also want to make sure I don't. And also it's interesting because I see a lot more in HTC that most employees don't see. So if they say, "Hey, this is the future," that's fine. But because I actually see HTC doing that in the
Hmm.
future for the future, when I say it, there's actually more issues because
Sure.
it's like, oh, I'm sharing what I saw as opposed to just I'm speculating of what the future is about. So just I apologize for
No.
not being able to share, especially you made it like, oh, let's go with the last question, but unfortunately I'm sticking with a generic kind of boring kind of answer,
How about
just
this
in
then? I'll
terms
I'll
of
rephrase the question that's more opinion based, that won't get you in trouble. When it comes to the empathy building powers of VR, whether that's through mechanics, accessories, whatever, how do you see that changing for the consumer, like a social VR game? Is it making it more friendly? Is it going to make it a better experience? Is that one of the ultimate goals, to basically take away the gamer rage and provide just
yeah.
a better experience?
Okay, so rage is not going to go. I think it will increase more soul touching experiences. It's like you can tell a difference between a great actor and a bad one, right?
Hmm.
The good actor is like, oh, phony. Great actor makes like you watch them go through their fake tragedies that makes you cry, right? And I think that's something that can go into VR. There's more emotional connection. There's more moments where it sends a like a chill up your spine. There's more moments where you just like you see characters in VR, whether it's a real person or an NPC, and you see them suffer, and your heart just feels like I want to help them, I want to save them. I think that is something we want to bring, and you connect with human beings in a much closer way. Like you say something and they raise the eyebrow a bit, and it's like, oh well, maybe you don't believe me. Let me tell you a bit more, right? You immediately react to people's facial expressions as you're talking, and just like in real life, they say you can tell if you trust a person within
Yes.
2 or 3 seconds before they say anything, right? And in VR, we want to be able to accomplish that. That trust is it's hard to trust someone, a little doll that's running around, right? A doll avatar. But it's if you see and feel them, like, oh, I see your face, I see how your face muscles move, I see how you smile, I trust you, I think you're a genuine person. So I think that's something we want to bring. Now, when you say like more rage, that's gonna
It's
be
gonna be
there
there.
probably even more because they care more, right? They care more. Their heart is more into the experience. So when they're unhappy, they're probably going to express it even more because our goal is to allow people to express themselves more in the virtual world as if they were expressing themselves in the real world. So I
Mm.
think they'll be able to express themselves even better. And maybe because it still has a virtual identity, so they still don't feel like there's as much consequence. So unfortunately, I don't know if that's going to go away.
It might not. I have found it personal anecdote. The more, like, when I put out, like when I originally got the Vive trackers, the lip track and went to Neos, like the more my body felt 1-to-1 correlated from my IRL action to VR and seeing the movements feel fluid, I felt more connected. And I will be honest, I acted differently. Not that I act in any. I don't think anyone who's played with me thinks I act insane, but there was a degree of beforehand, especially if I'm playing, like, let's just say like Halo on Xbox. Like, yeah, we're teabagging. Like, it's just gonna happen. I'm not gonna do that in VR. I'm just not. I feel terrible. It's an entirely different situation. And I don't do that really in traditional gaming anymore either. But I would never even consider actions that are obscene like that in VR, because I do feel more represented that that's me. Yes, it's an avatar, but I'm representing myself much more than I'm representing myself on a 2D screen. And I like that. But out of all the empathy building experiences that you've had that kind of led you down this path of disappointance, have you had a game that you've played that hit you the hardest? Not in a social game, I'm talking like single player, story based, something that hit you very hard where the power of empathy in VR manifested itself?
I don't think we're necessarily there. That's why we're pushing for that in the future, and we're creating enough hardware so that content creators can create the software experiences. But I think what's closest, like everyone says, Half-Life Alyx, right? In terms of how much they care about the details of the experience, the plot, and all those things. I think um, it does create a very immersive experience, at least. And so I think they did a great job making the game, and I think inspired a lot of people to see what VR can be. And I think even with the Vive Pro 2, a lot of people said to experience the how powerful it is, at its full potential, go to Half-Life Alyx, right? Turn on the highest settings. And so I think I'd love to see more games like that, and more games like that that are, social between real people.
Yep, all in time. I think that's the common phrase, all in time. We're very early. Um, Yukai Chow, I appreciate you coming here, but I do like to give the floor at the end to all my guests. If you don't have anything, you don't have to, but anything you want to plug, but also anything you just want to say to people watching this about the state of VR, what's making you happy. I just like to give everyone the floor at the end to really express yourself and anything that you'd like to convey to the audience where all our other means sometimes just don't convey what we need.
Yeah, I guess like we had said in our conversation, one thing that I'm pushing right now is the ARG, and like I said, we're working really really hard to give away this amazing prize that, again, a lot of executives at HTC really wants to have, but it's not reserved for them, me included. I'm still trying to see if I can at least go there for myself. And so it is an ARG. Like I said, people are having a lot of fun. If you want, just check out our Twitter at HTC Vive to see the clues, the hints, the puzzles. There's a blog. It'll link you to a blog post, but the HTC Vive blog also explains some of the rules. Again, it's one of those things where once it might look complicated, but once you get into it, I've seen just people have a ton of fun. They really enjoy it, and at this current rate, like I wish it was bigger, but at this current rate, if you participate, there is actually a pretty good chance you'll get the prize, because we just got to give it out to someone. So if you participate, then you have some luck on your side. But don't do it for the prize. Do it for a lot of people did it for the fun, and they end up thinking it's a great experience. So that's, I'm not plugging in product, buy our stuff. It's just have fun and potentially win a prize. That's all I'm pushing right now.
I appreciate that. I think, like, one last thing on this ARG hunt, there hasn't been, I don't want to, like, it's going to sound pessimistic when it's not. If you live in an echo chamber of like topics that get a lot of traction in VR, there's going to be more detractors of fun than there are topics that are set up to just be pure entertainment and community building. And you guys right now are the only one that are really just doing something special that has no purpose. There's not like a new headset announcement that all of a sudden is coming. Like, this is really to build a presence and to build a community and to have some fun with VR. And it's a breath of fresh air, at least on my timeline and email. So I appreciate what you guys are doing. Yukai Chow, thank you for stopping by. Anyone who's watching this, if this is too long for you, time zones, all that good stuff, I'll clip these all. We'll put them on Eric for President clips starting soon. And with that being said, sign off. And as always, everybody, see you next time, Space Cowboys. Peace.
Peace.